Welcome to the Own Your Best Life podcast. I'm May Emson, your host, leadership and mindset coach. Here, we talk all things spiritual, mindset, business, leadership, and wellness for the modern seeker who wants to align their life with purpose and inspiration. We'll cover career changes, stress management, meditation, energy, intuition, and more. Each episode holds spiritual and practical tools to help you live a life of your wildest dreams without getting burnt out along the way. Ready to live a life on your own terms? This is the Own Your Best Life podcast. Welcome, friends, to episode number 68 of the Own Your Best Life podcast. Have you ever been so frustrated about the lack of results in a certain area of your life that you just want to give up? When you're trying to stretch yourself into a new level of financial freedom, of creativity, of health, or intimacy in your relationships, things don't always work out the way we thought they would. So today we're going to focus on a powerful concept that is often overlooked, yet is perhaps the first step of truly understanding how to create a life that you love, and that is understanding what you can control. And I don't want you to think that you're about to receive the silver bullet, but if there was one or maybe two, this is probably one of the closest things there is. And it is, again, understanding what we can control. This might seem like a very simple concept, yet most of us don't put it into practice. We confuse and we overwhelm ourselves thinking that we have to control everything. How? Well, we think we can control other people's reactions by thinking that if we do or we say or we be a certain way, other people will be happy or they'll love us or they will want to do the thing we want them to do. We try to control our results by thinking that things should turn out the way that I want them to. And if they don't, it's a terrible thing. And you might be nodding your head and saying, May, but that's just how the world works, or that's just how people work. Well, while our actions do have a consequence, we're going to go a step further today and say that our actions do have a consequence, but can you know with absolute certainty that the consequence will occur the way you expected? And so think of people's reactions. That's not 100% certain. You can't absolutely know that if you do, be, or say something a certain way, someone will react the way that you expect them to react. What about outcomes? That's not 100% certain either. You can't absolutely know that if you do something, that the outcome will turn out to be what you had desired. If you can't control the outcome, or you can't control the people around you, well, what can you control? You can control what you believe about your actions. You can control what you believe about behaving this way and that it's the right thing to do, even if it doesn't work out with this person, for example. You can believe that someone at some point will appreciate your kindness, your compassion, your commitment. You can believe that this is helping you become a better person and that person that you always said you wanted to be. And then what about outcomes? Well, you can control what you do. So often I'll have an intention for something that I'm planning, and I know that it might not work out the way I planned. Most businesses, for example, become something completely different than what they started out with. Most people look vastly different in terms of their lives or even their appearances in maybe 5 or 10 years. So our jobs change, our lives change, and our worlds can completely change even in as short as a course of a day or a week or a month. So how do we know? How do we know that what is happening isn't actually happening for us and not to us? How do we know that our plan is better? And so I'll often ask myself, what results do I want to have? And what do I have to do to get there? And I think that's a common realization. I want certain results. There are certain things that need to happen in order to get there. But the one thing that we sometimes forget is actually delineating within all those sets of things, what do I do that is actually within my control? Because sometimes what we put in that whole bucket before we get to the outcome we want are actually results. They're not process. They are results goals. They're not process goals. So that's why I work so much on my mind and my body, because when I exercise, it teaches me that my behaviors matter. And your behavior does matter. And it can change the course of your entire life if it's aligned with what you value and what you love. And this is also why I teach so much on mindfulness, on mental models, and on energy. If we're feeling stuck or low or confused, we often don't do what we need to do to have the results we're looking for. But if we're feeling optimistic, if we're feeling calm, if we're feeling open to learning, we'll often persist, or we'll get creative about another opportunity we could pursue or another way to look at the problem we're facing. We don't feel that dreaded feeling of being stuck. And this all comes down to what I believe about a situation. I can control what I believe, and I can control that I believe that this is possible, that I can do it. Or you can actually believe that it's not possible, and why bother? One belief doesn't actually take more energy than the other. It takes as much energy to feel low as it does to feel high. The difference is what we're able to do and how much we get to contribute when we feel that low versus that high. For example, the other day I was out with the family and I was tired. I had several nights of not sleeping very much, and it was hitting that afternoon period when I would normally feel the effects of a lack of sleep from several nights. And we were going out to a cenote. We were in Tulum at that time, which is a natural freshwater pool that's made by these holes and these caverns in the earth. And the water there can be much cooler as a result of it not being exposed to the sun or to the ocean. So we were having trouble figuring out which cenote to go to, and it was getting later in the day. And when we got there, we realized we had been to this cenote before, and we were actually looking to try a new one. So we started to think maybe we should turn around and go find a different one. But because it was getting late, we were starting to run out of time. All the cenotes were closing. And I realized in that moment that my belief that this wasn't a worthwhile activity to do was because I was tired and I didn't want to go swim in cold water. And that was driving my behavior to not just decide and say, let's just go to this one. I was hesitating because I didn't really want to do it. Now, in this example, I didn't know or think that I had to do it either. So what would I have changed about my behavior if I believed that I had to do it and that I was going to do it? Well, I would have been more decisive. So our lack of decision making often comes from the thing we can control, our belief. We believe we want to, but when you dig down deeper, you believe that it's not really worth it, or that it doesn't really matter. That if you do something like this, it'll actually bring you some kind of pain or sorrow, or it's not a good thing for you. So the question I would ask then is this: what do you believe? What do you believe about the thing that you're looking to do in your life? What can you actually control? And that is the answer to that question. What you believe and what you do with that belief. I knew that if I was at least aware of my beliefs, that I could still take the actions to move forward with the results I'm looking to have in my life, and that my beliefs would eventually catch up. And that's a topic for another day. But if you can't believe that you're absolutely certain it can happen, what you can believe is that your belief will eventually change. Maybe it will change after you take an action and you do what you know to do, and you start to see your life change as a result. So I believe with certainty that this simplifies your life dramatically. Do what you know to do. Believe what you know to believe. Work on those two things incessantly, and you will have a life that constantly surprises you. And this is what it takes to be consistently successful and joyful. Do what you know to do. Believe what you know to believe. I would not have had half of the amazing results I've had in my life, like my work or my health, or just my level of satisfaction in my relationships and of life overall, if I didn't practice these two things. Do what you know to do and believe what you know to believe. And these are things that you can actually control. So you can take a step back today and reflect on how focused you are on the question, what can I actually control? It's really important to notice where this isn't happening and what you're experiencing as a result, so that you can make the shift towards a more empowered way of living and of succeeding. So take a look in your life of where you might be feeling some kind of suffering, some really low states, and dissect it by asking yourself that one question: what can I actually control? Because what's happening there is often a situation where you want things to be different than they are, and you are thinking that you can control what is happening, and you're unhappy because it isn't happening the way you want it to. And so when you start to ask yourself, well, what can I actually control here? You might end up with a different situation of beliefs, of actions, and of a situation that ends up turning out to be better than you thought. So there is a lot more here, my friends, but let's start with what you can actually control. We will talk about all these other topics in the group coaching as we talk about how do we shift the beliefs, how do we feel into the energy of possibility, and how do we expand our capacity to receive. So that is it, my friends, for this week. But let me know what results you're looking to achieve and how this has helped in the process. Not only that, how it's actually might be helping you get the thing that you want, whether it's a feeling, a situation, or a circumstance. So if you would like to go even further in this month's leadership group coaching, we will be covering the actual process of power and how do we reclaim our power. And this is one of the ways. So we are going to go deeper into the practices there. And if you enjoy these kinds of topics, you can go to www.mayamsin.com/contact to reach out and learn more. I love you, my friends. I hope you have an amazing week, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much for joining us this week on Own Your Best Life. Make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts so that you'll never miss a show. And while you're at it, can you please rate and review on iTunes? I would so appreciate it. Share it with a friend, take a screenshot of it, and tag @MayEmson. This helps continue to get the word out. For more show notes and resources, check out www.mayemson.com. You'll have all the links to everything you heard here today. Thanks so much for listening. It's time to own your best life.